In The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power, Season 2, Episode 5, titled Halls of Stone, we witness a glimpse into the strained relationship between Númenor and the elves. In a key scene, Ar-Pharazôn, played by Tristan Gravel, discusses with his son Kemen Leon Wadham how the shores of Valinor can sometimes be seen from Númenor. His words carry a sense of bitterness as he reflects on how the elves live forever in the undying lands, while men face the inevitability of death. This growing resentment toward the elves is palpable in Númenor, but the question remains, why is there such tension between these two groups? They once fought side by side, so what caused this rift? Let's delve deeper into the historical relationship between the people of Númenor and the elves and explore the reasons behind their eventual enmity. The animosity between Númenor and the elves seems shocking when we remember that the origins of Númenor are intimately connected with the elves. This is touched on in the Rings of Power's first season during the third episode, Adar. In this episode, Galadriel Morfydd Clark and Elendil Lloyd Owen revisit Númenor's archives, where they discover records about Elros, the first king of Númenor, and Elrond's brother. Both Elros and Elrond are half-elven, which means they were granted a choice by the Valar to either live as men or elves. While Elros chose the fate of men, becoming the first ruler of Númenor, Elrond chose to live as an elf. To fully understand the complexity of the relationship between the elves and men, we need to travel further back to the first age of Middle-earth. During this era, relations between the two races were harmonious, and there were even romantic unions between elves and men, such as the legendary couples Beren and Luthien and Tuor and Idri. Elros and Elrond are direct descendants of these unions. At the time, elves and men frequently fought alongside each other against the forces of darkness, particularly against Morgoth, the first Dark Lord. Together, they faced immense challenges, but it was only with the intervention of the Valar, the divine beings of Tolkien's world, that Morgoth was eventually defeated in the War of Wrath. However, the cost of victory was devastating. The destruction during the war was so extensive that Eru Ilúvatar, the supreme deity in Tolkien's mythology, chose to sink the entire continent of Beleriand, forever changing the geography of Middle-earth. But despite the devastation, both elves and men were rewarded for their bravery and loyalty. The elves were allowed to return to the undying lands of Valinor, while the men who had aided them, known as the Edain, were granted the island of Númenor as a reward. Furthermore, the Edain were blessed with longer lifespans and heightened strength, setting them apart from the other men of Middle-earth. With these divine blessings, it seemed that the relationship between Númenor and the elves would remain strong, but as history shows, this was not to be. In the early days of Númenor, its people maintained close and friendly ties with the elves of both Valinor and Middle-earth, particularly with Gil-galad's realm in Lindon. Númenorians learned much from the elves, including wisdom, craftsmanship, and knowledge of the world beyond their own island. This exchange of knowledge was seen as a blessing by both sides, and for a time, the friendship between Númenor and the elves flourished. However, as time passed, pride and corruption began to take root within Númenor's society. The people of Númenor, despite their longer lifespans, began to grow increasingly envious of the elves' immortality. This envy is a key element in the character of Ar-Pharazôn, who in Halls of Stone expresses resentment over the elves' seemingly eternal existence. This growing bitterness toward the elves eventually led to a division within Númenorian society. Those who remained loyal to the elves and the Valar became known as the Faithful, while those who grew increasingly hostile and envious of the elves became known as the King's Men. Sauron, the dark force that succeeded Morgoth, played a significant role in deepening this divide. After being defeated in battle by Númenor's military might, Sauron was brought to Númenor as a prisoner. Yet, instead of being humbled, Sauron quickly rose to become the king's chief advisor. Through manipulation and deceit, he convinced Ar-Pharazôn and his followers to worship Morgoth, turning Númenor further from its original alliance with the elves and the Valar. This shift in allegiance marked the beginning of Númenor's moral and spiritual decay. Under Sauron's influence, the people of Númenor became obsessed with the idea of immortality. Ar-Pharazôn, driven by his fear of death and his desire to achieve eternal life, ultimately made the fateful decision to wage war against the Valar themselves, leading a massive armada to the shores of Valinor. In response to this brazen act, Eru Ilúvatar intervened directly, sinking Númenor beneath the waves and reshaping the world so that Valinor was forever separated from the mortal realm. This catastrophic event marked the end of Númenor as a powerful kingdom and cemented the growing enmity between men and elves. Despite the fall of Númenor, not all hope was lost. The faithful, those Númenorians who had remained loyal to the elves and the Valar, managed to escape the island's destruction. Elendil, alongside his sons Isildur and Anarion, led the faithful in a desperate exodus from their doomed homeland. Guided by a divine storm sent by the Valar, their ships landed safely in Middle-earth, where they established the kingdoms of Arnor and Gondor. In Middle-earth, the faithful rekindled their relationship with the elves. With elven aid, Elendil and his sons built powerful realms, and together with the elves, they prepared for the inevitable conflict with Sauron. This alliance culminated in the War of the Last Alliance, where elves and men fought side by side once more, ultimately leading to the defeat of Sauron, at least temporarily, when Isildur cut the One Ring from Sauron's hand. The legacy of the faithful continued into the Third Age, where the Dunedain, the descendants of Númenor's survivors, continued to play a crucial role in the fate of Middle-earth. The most famous of these descendants is Aragorn, who, as a direct heir of Isildur, becomes a key figure in the War of the Ring. His character embodies the strength and wisdom of the faithful and highlights the enduring bond between men and elves, a bond that, despite its trials, remains a central theme in Tolkien's legendarium. The history of Númenor and its relationship with the elves is one of both great friendship and tragic rivalry. While the Númenorians were once close allies of the elves, their growing pride and envy ultimately led to their downfall. Sauron's influence played a key role in corrupting the once noble kingdom, but the faithful's survival ensured that the bond between elves and men was not completely severed. In the Rings of Power, we see these historical tensions playing out once more, as Númenor teeters on the brink of destruction, driven by its leaders' pride and fear of mortality. As the series progresses, we are likely to witness the full scope of Númenor's fall, a cautionary tale of what happens when a society turns away from wisdom and seeks power at any cost.